following show contains adult content. It's not our intent to offend anyone, but we want to inform you that if you are a child under the age of 18 or get offended easily, this next show may not be for you. The content, opinions, and subject matter of these shows are solely the choice of your show hosts and their guests, and not those of the Entertainment Network or any affiliated stations. Any comments or inquiries should be directed to those show hosts. Thank you for listening.
Hey everyone, and welcome to 50 Shades of Bullshit. I'm your host, Christine Lalonde, and this is the podcast where we uncover the truth about online dating. Now let's begin.
Hey everyone, I'm Christine.
I'm Jada.
And this is 50 Shades of Bullshit.
And yes, it is.
And yes, it is. Welcome, everybody. Thanks for coming back again and listening to our crazy shenanigans.
Our shenanigans. How are you?
Do
you know, I have to say, I talk to you often, and this week we haven't really talked much, so I feel like I don't know what's happening.
I have a wedding in New Jersey on Saturday. And so the second this podcast is over, I'm running to the airport. I'm taking a red eye. Okay. And then I'm driving up. I'm going to be staying in a boathouse off the Hudson.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah. And it was crazy because every hotel room in New York was like $300 plus a night. And then to stay in New Jersey where I'm going to be working, it was like $200 a night. And I kind of got screwed on this job. A friend who was the caterer who got really, really sick canceled her on the job, but I stayed on and I was going to be staying with her. She was going to be picking me up at the airport. She was going to get my airfare on points. And all of that did not happen. And because of that, every penny that I made for this job is going towards travel.
Yeah.
So
I worry though, staying on the water on a boat, like we're having crazy, for those people listening, I'm on the East Coast, I'm in DC. We're having crazy rain and we're getting like the back end of that hurricane. So I
think by the time I get there, it should be fine.
It'll be good.
Yeah. What's great is that I got this boathouse for the whole time I'm there for only $375 instead of $375 a night. So that's exciting.
Nice.
But
very exciting.
This week has just been really crazy getting everything ready for the wedding, finalizing all that, and then getting everything ready at work for me to be gone for a couple of days. It's just been a lot.
Yeah.
What about you?
Never a dull moment in the world of matchmaking. This week has been busy. I feel like this is the time, I said it before, it's fall, so people are definitely ready for their person for the winter months. So it's been busy. I've run into some interesting situations, but never a dull moment. So it's been good.
I know. It's funny to talk about, some of the things that y'all go through when you are matching and coaching, but I'm sure it's hard because you want to talk about some things, but then you're like, my clients will hear and then I'm in big trouble. So I'm sure that's hard.
Why don't this is the first time I will say, and this particular client knows because could care less if I talk about it, but this is the first time, today was the first time in my 10 years of matchmaking that I presented a phenomenal match to someone and they actually know each other. She's like, oh, we went to college together. I was like, huh? Say what?
What? Did they like the match? Were they attracted to each other originally?
She's very open to it. And he is actually on a flight to Ibiza right now. So I don't know what his thoughts are and I won't know until tomorrow, but she's open to it. She's just like, oh my gosh, I know him from college. And I'm like, oh, okay. It's not what I was gonna. And he
Well,
actually dated one of her friends, but she's like, you know what? That was college. This is now. And I'm like,
yeah, well, how long has it been
well,
since
she
college?
is 40.
All right, so
So
it's a hot fucking minute.
it's a
I'm
hot
sure
minute.
you never know. He
You
might
never know.
be
You never
really the
know.
right person for her and waiting for the moment that they get back together or
Absolutely.
get acquainted. You never know.
Absolutely. Well, I'm excited for today's guest. I told
Me
Rebel, I was like,
too.
this episode is for her because we love Rebel and she's
Yes, we know about her non-monogamy
Mm.
shenanigans. I'm into the word shenanigans today. I don't know
I know,
why.
I can tell because you've said it a
I,
few times.
I said it. Sometimes I get caught on a word and I can't think of anything else except for that word. And then I'm like, okay, let's retire that word today.
Yeah,
But
it's
yeah,
okay.
let's
Okay, so
bring them on.
let's
Them.
talk about them. So, Victoria, first of all, this couple, I absolutely love them. Victoria is a certified professional matchmaker, dating coach, entrepreneur, veteran, community builder, thought leader, speaker, writer. She's an E&M enthusiast. For those of you that don't know, that's ethically non-monogamous enthusiast, an educator. She founded Birds of a Feather Matchmaking, which is again, I love the name, similar to a lot of my colleagues, very boutique style specialty matchmaking firm. And I love that they focus on ethically non-monogamous, open, poly, swinger lifestyle relationships, which in this industry I think is very necessary. But they're located in Chicago. They offer a bunch of different services. Her and her husband Ryan, first of all, they're so adorable, but
Right?
a whole other thing. Her and her husband Ryan, they're dating coaches. They work with men who are seeking traditional or non-traditional relationships, as well as men who are looking to be more successful in their single, male, or swinger lifestyle. And I think they're absolutely adorable.
I do too. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hello.
Hi, thanks for having us.
Yeah.
Hi,
Well,
Sarah.
Jada's been talking about you guys since the last time she went to some conference.
New York.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
she can't stop talking about you guys.
Mhm.
And she's like, we got to have them on the show. So here, and you know what's crazy is that I didn't know your names. I didn't know that you were who she was talking about when I found you, on Facebook or Instagram?
Facebook. Yeah.
I think it was
Our
Facebook.
mutual friend Janice got us in touch. But
Oh,
yeah,
yeah.
But I've heard of
know it was Janice. Okay.
your podcast, and I've had matchmaking friends on your podcast too. So it was just a matter of time.
Yes, it was. Well, we're thrilled to have you.
Yeah.
So did you guys start out when you first met? First of all, how long have you guys been together?
About 8 years.
8 years. Yes, we met in 2016.
And were
In
you
Japan.
guys doing like a a non like a poly kind of relationship between the two of you first, and then you decided to do this kind of thing? Was this your lifestyle?
So the
Yeah.
way our the
long
way
answer.
our journey kind of started was we already were very interested in like the open relationships and like what that could look like. So in the very beginning of our relationship, we were actually in a very short term kind of like throuple situation that ended.
Mhm.
And then we stayed together and we continued to have the conversation. Like, we forgot who kind of mentioned it first, but if we were interested in like doing lifestyle shenanigans, and we were both like very much on board. And we educated ourselves on it. We wrote eroticas about it back and forth when we were long distance, when I was on deployments about it. And when we moved to San Diego, that's kind of where we like launched our experiences. And that was in 2017. So ever since then, we've just been doing all sorts of lifestyle things.
I love that.
So,
Well, I actually dated somebody. Let me try to remember. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7. It was about 6 or 7.
Oh, did we lose her?
Fine.
Yes.
I thought it was us for a
Okay,
second.
yeah.
No,
I
no,
was like,
no.
oh no.
I think it's her audio is weird, but that's okay. We can come back to her. It's fine.
No
So
worries.
I picked your brain a million times when we were in New York, and I have
Mhm.
so many questions with regard to like a polyamorous lifestyle in marriage and relationship and what that looks like. So for the two of you, like I want to know, similar to her question, like how did it start and how do you guys manage it?
Yeah.
Mm,
So how we so there's three main types of ethically non-monogamous relationships. One of them is being open, one of them is being poly, and then one of them is being a swinger lifestyle. And the ethically non-monogamous route that we are on is the swinger lifestyle route. So we do things together.
Got
We
it.
go to parties together, we go on dates together, we pretty much do everything together as a couple. Whereas open relationships, they tend to do things separately. They go on separate dates, they have separate experiences. And then poly relationships means you have multiple loving, intimate relationships. And
Okay.
so it's like some people do all the above. Some people only are mix of poly and swinger. So it's pretty much people figure out their own journeys and what feels right for them, and being able to coordinate that way. So with poly, there's a lot of like discussions about boundaries and emotions, because a lot of that is mixed and mingled, and people, in a very monogamous or monogamous normative society, jealousy is very much a thing
Mhm.
that is everyone has it, everyone just goes through it. But like when you are in an open relationship, you turn your jealousy into compersion. So that means you have happiness for your partner. And so
Mm,
sometimes being in these open relationships, you either have compersion or you have to work through your own feelings. So it's a lot, it's a journey for anyone who dives into it, essentially.
yeah.
Did that answer the question or what?
Yes, it did.
Okay.
I'm so intrigued by it because I feel like there's so many people that this could be the way, but also could get jealous or be like,
It,
I don't know.
Yeah.
I
it's
love
No,
it
this.
takes a lot to do this.
Yeah.
It does.
it does. It does. It's a lot of communication, and that's the
Yeah.
most important thing. If you're upset, you have to
You
say
have
something
to.
right away. Like I mean,
Yeah.
appropriately right away, but you have to say
Yeah.
something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, communicate. Anyone who's in a E&M relationship will tell you like communication is number one. Um, because
And
without
you
it, you just build
communicate it early
resentment.
on.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. We actually made a little worksheet. We can probably put it in the chat or whatnot so you
Yeah,
can
Oh,
see
yeah.
I
it.
Oh,
love it.
yes.
But it's
That's a
basically
great
like an
idea.
activity, a list of things that say, hey, are you may be into this. Like there's two sheets of paper. Like I'll do one and she would do one, and then we compare them afterwards and kind of talk about it. So it's a little primer to
Yeah. Yeah,
Mm.
exactly. It's an activity called Opening Your Relationship. It talks about how to have that conversation. And then I created like, and it's a yes, no, or maybe kind of activity. So there's like a list of things that kind of are kinky that you can do just together. But then there's things that lean poly, things that lean open, and then things that lean lifestyle. And then kind of figuring out like where your interests align or don't, and then kind of figuring out and having that conversation and how to move forward.
Nice. Well, sorry, I sometimes my internet just goes. So I disappear. So I'm back. So what I was saying really briefly is that I dated somebody for about a year that we were in the lifestyle. He is always
What?
in the lifestyle.
Mhm.
And yeah, and then I dated a couple of other people who were also, and I've experienced it quite a bit. I go to house
Oh,
parties, I go to private
Mm.
parties, I go to clubs here in LA that feature this type of lifestyle, and it's fun. What I do know
yes.
is that when I am in a serious relationship, it's not something that I've ever
Mhm.
been able to do. um
Mm.
I think that I get really territorial,
Oh.
and I I will not, maybe because my exes, most of them cheated. So that is an issue. But I think that it requires a lot of mental, just really being in that place to be able to live this type of lifestyle, which I think it's amazing. I do like it. I don't think I could ever have a poly relationship because that requires way too much for me.
Lots and lots of work to manage poly relationships for sure.
No,
It really does.
and I'll be honest, like it's not ENM is not for everyone, right? Like it's everybody's different and it just won't work for some people. So
Right.
Yeah.
Tell us more about the differences. Like, I know that there are a lot of people who we say the lifestyle, and the lifestyle basically, tell me if I'm wrong, is where you are deciding ahead of time, communicating together, and doing something that works for the both of you, whether it be open poly or like what we were talking about, going to parties and clubs and things like that, and having a swinger life. What do you think is the biggest difference, and why do you guys think that you focus on one and not the others?
so where do you want to start?
For you guys.
So yeah, the term lifestyle does get
I'd say you can use it in a couple different ways. Like it can be all encompassing to ENM, but generally when we hear it or when we use it, it's like lifestyle is
with swingers
specifically
like I have lifestyle friends, so they're swinger friends.
But I've heard people also use it in that like all encompassing manner.
And so when you're in the lifestyle, you have just various sexual experiences. That could be hot wifing, that could be swinging, that could be threesomes. It covers
a wide spectrum
of activities that you could do to be in said lifestyle. Whereas the term specifically swinging is typically when a couple full swaps or has full on sex with another couple. So it's a little mixing around in there.
Well, there's so much with that. There, a lot of the clubs that I would go to would have like dungeon rooms and S&M rooms and places that you could be like basically the performance for the night, and or private rooms or the open room where everybody's just kind of doing their thing, and some people mingle and some people stay to themselves. There's so many variations to that, and I think that's why I like that, because also you're there as a couple. I could never go to a club or a party by myself. It's not my thing. I know there are a lot of single guys that go, and there are a handful of single girls that go. Poly and open, I'm not sure that could ever be for me. But I respect people who like it and love it and live it and are happy with it.
Exactly. So we choose the swinging lifestyle as our way of life. The reason why we don't do open is because one, that's a lot of time, it's a lot of effort to go on dates, and that's just not something that sounds very appealing to us. And at least in this chapter, and we say chapters because who knows, it could change. I mean, we've been very solid swingers for 8 years. It's still the most ideal thing for us. But just doing things separately because we're each other's best friends. We just like doing things together. That's when we feel most fulfilled, most joy. We have so doing things separately and openly, like, of course we could have that conversation if we felt really strongly about somebody, but
we actually did just talk about it like
yesterday
actually, and it was just kind of like not really for us at the moment. It could change, but
exactly really. And then same thing with like poly is having like another full-blown relationship, again, a lot of time, and that's being that's thinking about someone else's emotional well-being, and it's like, what are the long-term goals? Like, do we all want to live under the same roof? Do we want to travel separately? Like, how do we combine all these things? And like the thought of it, at least for me right now, it seems just kind of like overwhelming, but like also like I don't have the capacity for another full-blown relationship. Friendships, absolutely. Like the best friends, my favorite and best friends are in the lifestyle, and we just are able to hang and talk when we can. But I feel like a real relationship is just a lot more
for sure.
Yeah.
It's a lot more.
involved. And so that's why we just like to do things for fun.
Yeah.
I think a lot of people are under the misconception that when you are in some sort of lifestyle environment for your relationship, that it's something that you're just willy-nilly all the time, but actually it's more of like a planned date night, or someone's having a private party and you're gonna go, and it's not something that you're like winging it every night when you're home swinging from the rafters with other couples, you know.
No, that's true.
No. I mean, we have done our fair share of Tuesday part. No, just kidding.
Right.
Yeah. Well, I guess it just really depends on the couple, because there are couples out there that like to go to bars and just try to meet. Like, for example, this is like common in like a hot wife couple scenario where we'll say like husband and wife, a scenario where the husband just wants his wife to have these experiences and then hear about it, get a video from it. And he might be at the restaurant, he might be at the other side of the bar, and he's waiting for a man to hit on his woman and see where it could possibly like escalate to. So there are people who sometimes do wing it.
But in the same sense, like, you know, a single person can go out to the bar every night and try to date every night. It's just
Right.
just a different
But then,
thought
yeah,
process.
but
So
then there are events. There's hotel takeovers, there's cruises, there's house parties,
Ooh.
there's dance clubs. Like,
Mhm.
yeah, there's a little
Mhm.
something for every, like any kind of activity specifically for the swinging community that are
Yeah.
and resorts. So, yeah,
I am so intrigued because I feel like there's such a Victoria, I think you and I talked about, I told you about the person that had reached out to me and was very specific about
yeah, the
things.
BDSM dom
Yeah.
guy, yeah.
I feel like there's such a market for you guys. Like, do you find that it's opening up and people are like, yeah, like I want to find a matchmaker that can help me do this? Because I feel like, honestly, I feel
Yeah.
like people are super into it, but they're just not necessarily open to expressing that they're into it. Like, they're still trying to figure it out. Do you find
Yeah.
that you have a lot of people that reach out to you in that space?
Yes, I do get
Yeah.
a lot of people who are interested in being ethically non-monogamous, but haven't had that experience yet.
Yeah.
And that is still perfectly okay with me. Like, I will either find some like, and it's kind of like conversations that I have, like, do you want someone with experience, or do you want someone on the same level as you, or are you open to either one? And then trying to just like align them, and then they figure it out for themselves, and because they like the idea, and that's where it starts. And
Mhm.
another, on a sidebar conversation too, is like non-monogamy is so much more common than people give it granted for. Because an example that we
Mm.
give is either someone who cheated, you cheated, or you got cheated on,
Mm.
and think about all those stories you might have heard from somebody, whereas you could just be ethical about it and give someone the option to either stay in that relationship or opt out. So really, non-monogamy is very common, but it just needs a lot of work and communicating and being ethical about it and having consent and awareness, which is a lot more work. And people like, but the outcome is so much better when everyone's on the same page, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I do think, this could be my own opinion, and you guys tell me if I'm wrong, because I think that it's always been around. It's just
Yeah.
that there's never been titles for it. Like, people put a label on it now. And I think that we're growing into a time where people are talking about the be he, she, her, him, they, them, that people are more open to discussing sexuality and their own personal sexuality and desires. And I think that people are starting to become more open to discussing things more openly. I think
Yeah.
that we have a long way to go. I mean, that's why we do this show, is to talk about these things, because I think that there's fear-based feelings behind not understanding things.
Mm.
And, if somebody may come across somebody that they just are mad about, and they feel like, this is, wow, this could be my person. And then they find out that they want to live in the lifestyle, or they are interested in non-monogamy, swingers, or they want to be poly. Then the person who doesn't understand it could really be heartbroken or but I think that people are starting to talk more about it.
Oh yes, there are definitely lots of efforts to normalize non-monogamy, and I agree with you. It's becoming more and more normalized. It's becoming more open. There's more resources. Like it's coming up. We're next. And but the thing that people I think are hesitant to be open about it is because there are no, I mean, there are some, but there's not as many protections for those who are non-monogamous, or there are potentially could be used against them in certain cases. So there's organizations like the Open Organization, for example, that are working on the legalities behind poly and non-monogamous families. So I think the more like there's protections, I think then the more open people will be, and especially when the more education's out there, the more people can understand like what this actually is, instead of like, I think we're going to probably get into it, right? Myths versus realities of like what it actually is. And just letting people know that it's normal for people to do this. Like, like they're like, it could be someone who bags groceries, or it could be the CEO. Like everyone does it. Everyone, all careers are in this lifestyle. And I think the more people realize that, the more they can see it for themselves too.
Yeah. Do you feel that it's a trend, or is this like the way? Like, is this like now in 2024, everyone is so open and just like, yeah, I want to be free. Let's do it. Or do
It
you
takes
feel
a
like,
lot to do it. So
yeah,
I don't think it's a fad. Do y'all think it's a fad?
I mean,
all
I don't
very
know.
new.
I would just kind of what you said, Christine, is it's been around for a very long time. I mean,
Yeah.
you can go back to the 60s or in the 70s. It was popular-ish then, and then
They just didn't have a title for it.
right? Yeah,
Yeah,
ebbs
yeah.
and flows of that. So
And we can also talk about the times of Romans too, and how open they were back then. Like we can go really
Yeah.
far back.
I mean, we can go really far. Yeah.
But I don't think
Well,
it's a trend. I think it's here to stay, and it's just going to get bigger and bigger, honestly. The communities and
I think that people can really get confused about, what the I want to say rules, but I don't want to say rules. But you know what I mean. You guys lay down rules for each other. You expect each other to follow a certain thing to be able to keep your relationship happy, healthy, and strong. So when you start talking to other people about this, do you coach them on the ethnic? What's the not ethnic, but what's the
like
word I'm looking
etiquette.
for?
Like the ethical practices
Thank
of
you.
it.
Yeah, the ethical practices, or do you just match people who just like, oh yeah, I want to do this?
it depends on what they're looking for sure. Like
Yeah.
you do
I
it.
turn down people all the time who I don't think are ethical. Like I definitely have a way of thinking that I believe is ethical, and I'll give you an example. There's a term that goes around that's called a one penis policy, which means that this couple can only play with other women and no guys can be involved whatsoever. So the men have an abundance of women, and the women can play with women, but they are not open to other men being involved. So if somebody is requiring that in the relationship, that's not ethical to me. That's not fair for the woman to close herself off and not have these experiences when you have an abundance of it, because you have your own issues that you're working through. You're insecure, you're this, you're that, and or you don't see like when you don't see women as inferior, even though if your wife is bisexual, then she could honestly leave you for a woman too. Like, and they don't think of it that way, right?
Right.
So there are definitely ethical standards, at least in my opinion, but there's also a difference between consensual non-monogamy, which means like you're consenting to being in this dynamic, but it might not be ethical. So that's kind of like a term that gets
Tossed around as well.
Yeah. Consensual non-monogamy, ethical non-monogamy, same but similar, but sometimes it's not ethical, but they're consenting to it. They're aware that their partner is doing it, even if they don't feel comfortable with it, but they just kind of deal with it.
Yeah.
And in each relationship
That's no
is
fun.
different. Yeah, each relationship is different because there's actually subset of this that's called relationship anarchy, and they essentially don't want any rules at all, nothing. So it's a
It's
Wow.
That's
chaotic.
yeah.
isn't
Yeah.
that kind of hard to though,
Yeah, how would that work with no rules?
It
It's just like a free for
They don't
all.
last long.
it doesn't last
So
long.
I have a
roommates?
sex therapist friend, and she says those relationships don't last long because
Yeah,
of the way
I
they
can
are.
see that. Yeah.
I can
Yeah.
see that. It just has to have, when I was doing this, when I'm gonna sound selfish.
Let's hear it.
I have had a lot of struggle with in the past because I've done a lot of work on me and I've done a lot of changing. So I'm in a different place now. But in the past, when I was doing this years ago, um, I had a lot of issues still around baggage around trust issues.
Mhm.
So when I got into this, the guy that I was dating and we were having this kind of relationship, he said to me, I don't need other women. I actually don't want other women. I actually want to see you with other men.
Mhm.
I'm good with other things, but I'm not interested in having any kind of relationship with women. And women can participate with you, men can participate with.
Oh, I think we
I'm
lost her
assuming
again.
she was gonna say
Well,
with
it was just
you.
So
getting good. Yeah, so that's
so what she's describing is essentially a
a
hot
hot
wife
wife.
situation, and
Okay.
that's common. We know quite a few people that do that. It's a different dynamic. Now,
It's a different dynamic.
going back to
Yeah.
the whole ethical piece, it's in that sense it is ethical because everybody has agreed to that, right? Like that's just it, it's just a different dynamic.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. So what you were saying, Christine, is that what you're describing is a hot wife dynamic.
Yeah. I like that because
Yeah.
I just didn't want to feel like um, that they didn't want me anymore, or they could fall in love with somebody else, or
Mm,
that trust issue was still there for a long time. And so it was hard for me in that way, but it was great because always the men I'm with wants the same thing that I do.
mhm.
mm.
I'm not sure how well I share. I'm not very good
No, and
share.
that's perfectly fine. And it's like you know yourself and like what you like and what you won't like. And then either you can be with someone who is okay with that or not. And
Or
there are
not.
plenty of men who are like, I just want you to have fun and then tell me about it. And then that works for women, especially like you probably like you were saying, like you enjoyed that because you got to communicate and have fun and everyone was like just so happy about these experiences.
Mhm.
And but that's a really great place to start. And ideally, like if your man is happy with it, then no changes to be made. But it might be good to like recap every 6 months, like how we feeling. Are we still enjoying this? Do you require more
Mm,
experiences? Like after you build that trust and that foundation and it's been solid, it's like if you're able to do it, can I do it? Like, and then you kind of have that conversation. But sometimes you never need to reach that point, and then you can just be a hot wife the whole time. We know
Yeah,
couples
and
who are like
I
that.
think that's the I guess would be the difference. What we're describing with the one penis policy is where those people aren't willing to have that conversation and recap
Mhm.
and say, hey, I actually want
Yeah,
this, right? Like, but
yeah. Or like they say things like, "Well, if she wants to be with another man, I will leave her." Even though they
Mm.
have kids and they're married and they're like, "Well, if she thinks she needs something different than me, like then she can
that
have that.
yeah.
I'll just leave her." Like that's unethical. Like you don't even give her the
Right.
space to have that conversation with you.
Mhm.
Right.
So if you at
yeah.
least can be open to conversation and like working through everyone's wants, needs, and desires, and that makes it ethical, in my opinion.
How often would you say you guys do like, I don't know that I want to call them like pulse checks, but like check-ins to be like, okay, I
All the
liked
time.
this, but I didn't like this.
Every night,
Every night
Oh,
or
after
every weekend,
yeah, I
after
mean like
every.
I mean and that's being a bit
Like, did you have fun? Was there anything that you or what would you like
got
to
it.
do? Anything would you like
yeah,
to change?
after every party event, whatever we do, we
I
definitely
love that.
recap with each
So the
other.
Yeah.
communication is so open. I love that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And then like for example, like us just having that conversation yesterday, like we haven't had like a conversation about that in like I
A
don't know,
while. It's been
like
a
6 months
while.
or
Yeah.
so, where it's like, could you want to do it? No? Okay, then let's see when that might come up again or like so we definitely have it every once in a while, especially when, things just come through. Like, for example, we had a friend of ours over for the weekend, and we had a really fun weekend with her. And she's more into like the BDSM, like sub kind of realm. And so
Mhm.
that's like fun for us to be there for her. But it's like, what could this look like in the future, or how's this going? And it's just great right now. So it's like, how
Yeah.
would we feel at a later time? So,
Again,
Love that.
things are always changing. There's always lots of variety.
Personally, I think that when people are open to understanding each other's needs, desires, and fantasies, that when they're communicating like you guys are, I think that, I don't know, personally, it's my opinion. I think that you guys stand a better chance of, staying more communicative and staying more in tune with each other. Whereas monogamous couples, if they have a fantasy, they're sometimes afraid to talk about it. Or if
Yeah.
they do, they're judged for it. I was always judged for my shit. That's why I really enjoyed the lifestyle style. When I'm with somebody who enjoys the lifestyle, I actually like it a lot.
Mhm.
Yes.
And I
Yes.
think about it on my own. I think that playtime is really, really important for people who are in a relationship together. And knowing what those boundaries are and feeling comfortable to talk about those things, I think makes stronger
Yeah,
relationships.
Yeah.
In my opinion, anyway.
absolutely.
Yeah.
No, I
Yeah.
What would you
completely agree.
guys
So
what would you say for people that are interested and maybe like, maybe I want to try this with
Try
my
it.
man or my woman or whatever? Like, what would you
Mhm.
say as far as having that conversation? Because I believe it definitely starts with communication, as you guys talked about. And I've seen you both in person. Like, you guys are literally like favorite humans because I can tell that your communication is so solid. But what would you say to someone that is thinking to go that direction, but nervous or terrified to have that conversation with their partner because they may not know if their partner feels the same way?
yeah.
So
So
there's a bunch of
this is
different
right
ways.
here.
Yeah,
This comment.
approaching it lightly is definitely a good one. A little trick just to test the waters. You could say, "I had a dream. What do you think?"
I love that.
Dream.
Yeah.
Um, I,
So
I would tell people when I talk to people and they're like, "Oh my god, you did that," and I'm like, "What the fuck?
okay.
It's not that
So
crazy." I do tell people that maybe they should try going as a partners going to a party and just observing and feeling it out and having fun, but having lots of communication beforehand
Oh,
about
yes,
what their
Victoria
okay.
has
boundaries
so
So
are.
much to
I do
say. I
have
see
a
it.
strategy, a recommendation on how to broach the subject, and
Mm,
that is what the little activity that I made has. So I pulled it up, and basically it is to just plant the seed and see how they receive that information or that idea, and hopefully they're open to it.
mhm.
Um, and if there is interest, pretty much, the one fear that people have, or most common fear people have, is fear of abandonment, right? They
Mm,
don't want to potentially be open to these people and then they get left, right? So what
Right.
you just said is what I always say to people, like, go to the event, do nothing there, just talk, watch,
love
listen,
it.
have fun with each other, and then
Fun.
recap at the end, talk about what you did and didn't like. That way there's no pressure to even kiss somebody, there's no pressure to do
Mhm.
this. You're just
I
there to
love it.
have fun and be in that
Yeah.
space, hear different stories, see how other people might have navigated it. And
Mhm.
that's how we would recommend, that's how we recommend going. But our personal journey, what we did is that when we moved to San Diego, and we didn't know anything about anything. So we actually, but one of the most common sites to kind of launch is through FetLife, which is kind of
FetLife.
like Facebook, but fetish and
Mhm.
kinky, but it's more than just
Mm,
that. And they are really big for social events. So we went to
mhm.
a munch or slosh at the time, which means you're at a restaurant or a bar. And we went to, our very first one was a poly meetup. and we met some swingers there. We met like a dominant there. We just had conversations from there. And then that's kind of where they gave us more information about like what's local and what's more you. And at the time, like the poly meetup wasn't for us. Then we went to a rope tying shibari course. Again, that community wasn't like quite for us, but it was still pretty cool to like learn how to rope tie. We got some stuff like that. Then we met swingers. Oh, these are our people. Then that we were given advice, go to an event, do nothing, and then after that event, go and do something. And that's exactly what we did. It was like the perfect transition into trying this. Granted, Ryan and I are both really non-judgmental. We're really open-minded. We don't have like that, like, we don't have guilt around it.
Yeah, that's great.
Yeah,
and parties are fun. The
Yes.
lifestyle, whether it's at a club or at a party, they are fun. People are nice. They're outgoing. They communicate with each other. Everybody's having a good time. People bring their own
Yes.
alcohol. Some
Yes.
places have food. Some people bring their own
Mhm.
food, and it's always like hanging around in the kitchen. And there's dancing and hot tubs and fucking stripper
You're nailing
bars.
it. No, you're absolutely right.
It's a
That is
blast.
Yeah.
Okay, so how does one find these parties?
FetLife
So-
helps in your neighborhood. Yeah.
You can honestly, you can Google.
Lots of
Yeah.
Googling. Then you could also utilize Facebook groups.
Mhm.
You can even like post anonymously. You can create like a separate Facebook account if you don't want to try to mix and mingle. There's a lot of
Reddit.
social media accounts and trying to find people who are in your certain area. And so the way we found out things was through a site, like we initially went through the site called Cassidy. And then what we did there is we connected people from there. Then from there, we chatted with, at the time, a common platform to chat with other swingers was through Kick. So then we chatted with people on Kick, and then we just asked them, like, what are your recommendations? Like, where's the place to go? And then that's where you get all your information from people who already are doing it. And then,
There's definitely to name a few websites, I suppose. Cassidy is one.
yeah, Cassidy.
SDC.
Yeah, you can check out the SDC link on my website, birdsofeathermatchmaking.com, and be able to go from there.
There's
But,
SLS.
There's another one that I like is actually Field, although
Yeah, that's-
it's the app can be kind of glitchy. It's actually a very fantastic app because people are very upfront and on their profiles like what they're looking for and communicating on there. So it's I guess like Tinder, but for more open-minded people. There's couples on there meeting other couples, and then you can just match people on there and then have conversations on there and get information and resources from.
And then each one of these platforms is going to be more or less popular in a given area, right? So
Yeah.
Cassidy was big in SoCal. It's not so big here, right? Like Field is bigger here, and then different. It's a lot. It's a lot to go into.
Yeah,
But I guess it's a
yeah.
good place to start.
I could imagine there's probably like a ton of different things, but I also think that there's a lot of people and couples and relationships and people new to dating that want to try it and are terrified to say to their partner, this is what I want to do.
Yeah.
So I think it's great that there's resources.
Well, actually, to add on to that too,
Yeah.
is something that I'm starting in the Chicago area is non-monogamous speed dating I have two separate events. One's for individuals and then one is for couples.
I
So
love
it's
it.
literally like a casual environment. There's, drinks included and it's an upscale place. And you just talk to couples for 5 minutes or so, and then you can mingle at the end. So that's going to be a really great launching pad for new couples just to like meet other couples, hear their experiences, and there's no pressure to play to happen that night. There's no beds in the back. You're literally there to exchange contacts or not, and then you talk again another time.
I love that.
I love that. I do too. That's really cool. I love this topic. I think that it's a lot of fun. I think that a lot of people are afraid to talk about it, and they have a lot of shame and guilt and all that bullshit that our society, especially here in the US, likes to tack on to everybody and say, oh, you're not Puritan? Well, by God, you're terrible. I do love this, and I really had no idea that there was matchmakers out there doing this kind of thing. And when
No, there is
Jada
a
said-
matchmaker. Her name's Victoria.
Yeah, that's right.
I'm the first and only certified matchmaker doing this, but there are a couple other ones.
Wow,
We're up and
that's
coming.
amazing.
Yeah.
I think it's amazing, and I'm glad that there's people like the two of you that people can turn to when and not make them feel ashamed or
Yeah.
have issues. I just think it's beautiful to be
Yeah.
open and honest, and there's nothing wrong with fantasies. There's
Mhm.
I love it when like when I was dating and stuff and men would say, "Oh, what's your fantasy?" And they just want to hear that I want to be with another woman. To be quite frank, that's
Yeah.
what they want to hear. They want to
Yeah.
hear I want to do a threesome with a chick, you know. And that's most normal average guy. They just want to have a threesome with two girls and then call it
And
a
it's not
day.
as easy as it sounds, gentlemen.
No. And I tell people who mention this, like, and I say, well, how much do you know about it? How much do you know how to handle it? How much do you know to have communication and talk about it? And they look at me like, oh, you've done this before. I'm like, I'm not an idiot. Don't ever do a threesome with a relationship with another person that's not part of your relationship if this is not the lifestyle that you have
That you
really
haven't.
sat down and talked about, because it can ruin a
Yeah.
relationship.
It's true. It
Yeah.
can make or break a relationship. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's not
I
a good
have
place
to
if your
say,
relationship is rocky. It's better for those who are secure and excited to try it out, not because they're being
absolutely.
coerced or because they're being threatened to
Yes.
leave. Like, that is not the place to do something like this. Like, do it because you want to be there and you're consenting to be there and you're enthusiastic about it. Because
You're
anyone who has
excited.
any experience will know that you're not there for the right reasons, like very, very quickly.
Yeah.
Correct.
I have to say, I
Correct.
know we only have like 3 minutes left, but for anybody that's listening, I have seen these two beautiful humans in front of us in person, and the way they are so obsessed with each other, and they're so cute, and they're so just connected, and they're just so. I listen. This is the way to go. If this is something that you're thinking about, I feel like that you should connect with them because
I
I
do
mean
too.
they're
Absolutely.
beautiful. I've seen them together, like literally seen them, and they're
Yes.
I
obsessed.
love
We
that.
love to
I'm
help. We love to
obsessed.
inspire. We are definitely happy to be a resource for new people.
Well, I think that the reason why we mainly talk about it on the show is to let people know there's no shame in the game. There this isn't something to, be crazy about if you're, going to hide it. Y- I like people to be open and talk
Yeah.
and communicate, and do you guys do national? Do you help match people nationally or just in the area that you're in?
We service nationwide with a preference for major metropolitan areas because the
Okay.
communities are typically bigger there.
Yeah, easier to do. I love
Yeah.
that. I would, if there are some more topics that you guys would like to talk about that kind of center around this, like when you guys said, Ryan, you said that you guys had a checklist. I actually would love to have you guys back on and,
Mhm.
Maybe go over that and talk more in depth. I think that this is just pulling off that wrapper
The
and
layer.
taking a peek inside
Yeah.
going,
Yeah.
woo. I think that we
Yeah.
should go more in depth on the next one, and we'd love to have you back if you guys are game to be back.
Absolutely. This was great. It's a really nice setup. So would be happy to be
Ah,
back.
I love that. I love that. So really quick, we don't have but like 60 seconds left, but really quick, when you guys started dating each other, did you know you wanted to be in this type of thing, or did this something you talked about together?
Talked about it. Well,
I've been interested since I learned about the term swinging in high school. I always
Okay.
thought that was an appealing a relationship to be in.
and I've had
Okay.
experiences before our relationship, but
Okay.
yeah, no,
Yeah,
definitely communication
so
about
I
it.
was always interested. I was always game.
Victoria, you're my spirit animal. Me too, quite frankly. I'm working on me getting to the place where I feel worthy. I'm not insecure. I'm not, jealous. I'm secure within who and what I am, so that if in the future I want to do this again, I'm actually in a better headspace, which
Yeah.
I've been in it, and I was in it when I was in a terrible headspace and I could handle it. So now I'm, you never know. You never know.
Yeah. Well, I'm super excited that you are wanting to just do the inner work and be in a place where it's very enjoyable for you. So I'm super excited for your journeys to come. Let's definitely talk through it for sure.
Jada, you're next.
Me? I'm next? Oh, Lord. I don't know that I'm ready.
It's like, let me find one
for everybody.
No, it's not. It really is not. Unfortunately, we are out of time. Thank you guys for being here.
Thank
We
you guys.
really
I
appreciate
love you guys
you.
to pieces. Yeah.
Yeah,
for sure.
absolutely. We will have you back after the show. Email me and let me know some dates that you're available. We'd love to talk more in depth, maybe in like November. I have some dates open. So, thank you for being here, everyone. Thank you for coming every week. We really appreciate you, Jada. You know I fucking love you. And until next week, same time, same place. Let's keep this real.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please share with your friends, like and follow us on Instagram at 50 Shades of _bullshit and Facebook at 50 Shades of Bullshit. Thanks so much for listening, and we really hope to see you again next week.